Singing Bob Marley?
Now, over the last decade or so, we've been blessed with several really great musical biopics. Elvis, Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man, Straight Outta Compton all come to mind. Now, late last year, the trailer dropped for One Love, the Bob Marley movie. Now, I thought it looked fantastic. I love Bob Marley, I love his music, but other than the basics, I really don't know much about the man. So I was excited for this. Now, it opened this past weekend, so I hopped in my car and I drove over to the theater to see it. Now, I was going to bring some weed, to really fully immerse myself in the experience, but the theaters have this no smoking policy, and the police seem to really frown upon driving while you're high, so I just settled on a box of Mike and Ike's and a Diet Coke. So what do we have here? Is this another great musical biopic? Or does it miss the mark? Well, before we answer that, let's talk a little bit about the plot for the movie One Love.
Let's talk.
Now, it's 1976. We're in Jamaica. There's a lot of political conflict and turmoil. Bob Marley announces he would perform at a concert to promote peace amongst the warring factions. While preparing for the concert, Marley, his wife Rita, and several other members of the band are shot by assailants, landing Rita in the hospital for a head injury and Marley with gunshot wounds to the torso and arm. But all the wounded, including Rita, survive and recover in time for the concert. After performing, Marley, saddened by his own countrymen's attempt to kill him and his wife, show the crowd his bullet wounds before walking off stage. He tells Rita to take their children to the United States, and he and the rest of his band will venture to London. This is where he plans and records his iconic Exodus album and sees himself rise to the level of international superstar. Now, on the plus side are the performances. Kingsley Ben-Adir and Lashana Lynch, who play Bob and his wife Rita, they're fantastic. They're both well suited for the roles and both capture the complex essence of each character and their up and down relationship. Especially Ben-Adir, who really owns the part of Bob Marley. He looks, he acts, he sounds the part. He really owns the part of the reggae icon. He's fully committed to the role, and it really comes across in all aspects. Also, the soundtrack is wonderful, but honestly, that was really never a question, as Marley's music is timeless and iconic. But sadly, there are a lot of problems here. Now, if you had no knowledge of who Bob Marley was, it would be really hard to learn much about him from this movie. It's like opening a book halfway through, trying to read it, and then occasionally going back to the beginning to see if you can glean some other information. It's just a really disjointed experience. And in a day and age where movies run too long, this movie's actually too short. It runs about an hour and 50 minutes, and I feel like you could have added a good 20-30 minutes to this story and really fleshed out both the character and his story. Some of the best musical biopics that I've seen, they have a beginning where you see the performer as a young person, then you follow them along through their life, the ups and downs, the agonies and defeats of their growing fame, until you finally reach the conclusion to where they are at now. But this doesn't do that. This just seems to jump back and forth haphazardly between the middle of the man's life, back to the beginning, and then to the end. And even the end, it just glosses over way too much of his life.
I feel like we glossed over some details here.
Now, a good thing that will come out of this film is an introduction to Marley's music to a new generation. It's some of the best music ever made, especially the Exodus album. It's one of my personal all-time favorites. You should buy it if you don't have it. But the film doesn't provide enough glimpses into how all of this happened. Now, the movie does serve as a vibrant homage to Marley's spirit and artistry, but it ultimately left me yearning for a deeper, more critical study of the complexities that defined one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. The film treats Marley and his work with affection and reverence, but it just fails to dive deep into the life of the man behind the music. And while Kingsley Ben-Adir does an awesome job in the central role, Bob Marley One Love doesn't do justice to its brilliant subject. It's worth a watch, Absolutely. But does it rank up there with some of the recent great musical biopics? Sadly, it does not.
I'm sad.
Well, that's it for me this week. Tune in next week where I'll give you my opinions on whatever I've seen. But in the meantime, click that like button, subscribe, leave a comment, share this video with friends and enemies alike. And as always, I thank you for giving me your valuable time, and I'll see you next week. Take care.